Dad has just asked me here, what is Kabbalah? And so, Kabbalah, Lukabel, means to receive. Quite frankly, it's to receive the letter Hey. But we'll get into that. We'll get into that. But, so then he asked me, receive from whom? So I look at him. Well, what do you think it's going to be? Receive from whom? From the man in the moon? From the doctor? You're going to be receiving from God. So how do you receive? You refine your vessel. You refine your tuner to be able to get higher and better frequencies in your reception. So you study, you meditate, you work on yourself to be able to fine-tune your instrument, your antenna, to be able to receive higher frequencies. Just like a fine-tuned radio or any other type of receiver. You're receiving from God. And the more you work on yourself theoretically, the more you're going to receive. Of course, is there a miraculous quantum jump between levels? And do you think anybody knows how or why these things happen? No, those are gifts. Those are gifts from God. Like Matan Torah, the gift of Torah. It's given for us down here to work on ourselves. The oisech, b'Torah and mitzvot. In order to refine the vessel, to open up the kli, Kelly, 60, Kaf Lamed Yud, 60, just like the word halacha, 60. And so, what do you do how do you do this? How does one's spiritual level affect oneself? Is it possible for one spiritual level to affect another? Can my work be like a candle that lights another's work? Like one lights from a Shamash candle, the Hanukkah candles, or a birthday cake. And this nobody really knows. It's beyond knowledge. Because the higher level is faith. Beyond knowledge rests the area of emunah. And so, how do we perceive this? For those who are, for those of us who saw the Super Bowl and its 2-week lead up to the Super Bowl, we saw an area of God coming down into earth for a miraculous miracle. We saw a manifestation of godliness during the Super Bowl. It started 2 weeks before in Deflategate. This thing that I actually called for a boycott of the Super Bowl because Deflategate just showed us what fools we are. That we're part of the corporate structure. As it turned out, nobody boycotted the Super Bowl. Not only did nobody boycott the Super Bowl, 114 million people watched it, more than anybody, any amount ever watched the Super Bowl, because of the trouble that was stirred up by Deflategate. So they wanted to see what happened. Then in the lead up to the Super Bowl, we get certain ads that were put out, and then they said, oh, those ads are too risque. Well, those ads were put out on purpose to be too risque, so they got millions of dollars of publicity prior to the Super Bowl. And this was all done on purpose, again, just to fool us. And then the game starts. And at the end of the game, we see the miracles. In the game, a lot of players who were unknown became stars. People who were working at Foot Locker just a couple of months ago, if the other team won, could have been the most valuable player. And then we're coming down to the wire. A few seconds left. A miracle pass on the 6-yard line. Guy lying on the floor catches the ball after a juggling act worthy of the magician card in tarot. And then, with a few seconds left, what happens? There's Marshawn Lynch goes 5 yards on one play to the 1-yard line, and they have second down and goal to go. All they have to do is give the ball to Marshawn Lynch 3 times. He has to score, apparently. They pass. There's an interception, and the team that was going on to win lost. In the strangest call in the history of football, in the greatest turnaround in the history of football, we see in front of 114 million people an act of God to get us to believe in God, to show us there is a God. And if you don't think so, then may I suggest turn off this video. So the point is, you saw an act of God. The act of God started at Deflategate to get 114 million people to watch the act of God that occurred at the end of the Super Bowl. So, when one says, what is Kabbalah? This is Kabbalah. I just told you this is an act of God. Now, what went on in this call of why the call was made, theoretically, by Pete Carroll, is a whole other story. Is it that they wanted their fair-haired boy, the quarterback, to be the star rather than this not fair-haired boy, halfback, Marshawn Lynch, to be the star, who didn't talk to the press and was a kind of like a rough guy? They wanted this Bible-toting guy to be the star. And so they risked everything to make him the star. It also has financial reasons and all this. So these are deep issues, team issues. What's going to happen about the end of Deflategate after all this? Will there be a real judgment in this earth? A fair judgment, even though they won the Super Bowl. Because, quite frankly, the team that won the Super Bowl cheated. You're seeing godliness manifested on earth. Who can read these signs, and who is subtle enough to be able to be an antenna to see the subtleties in daily life, in daily secular life of the coming down of godliness within the secular society, showing us parapraxes, things between the spaces, giving us inklings of what godliness means, showing us where we can go and how we can have gone wrong. And that's what the Super Bowl showed us. Showed us godliness coming down. That's Kabbalah. Kabbalah is the received impressions of the events that are taking place all around us. There are 4 different interpretations of each event. There's a simple interpretation. Oh, there was an interception on the play. It was just another play. Then there's a symbolic interpretation. Oh, it was a bad pass. He was nervous. There's different levels of interpretation. And then there's a Kabbalistic interpretation that the whole thing is planned to show us how God manifests on earth. And that's what the Kabbalistic interpretation of the Super Bowl is. That we were fortunate enough to see godliness manifested on earth in the secular society's most religious event, the pro football game on Sunday. Football is the religion of America. And we saw God manifest, come down out of the sky, just like Katy Perry was in the sky on a star singing. God comes down and shows us spirituality, religiosity, godliness in something as profane as football. And one has to see the spirituality in the profane. One has to see the Kedusha in the Kalipa. And when one sees that, then one realizes there's God on earth.